And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's Xbox Factor podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL. And as you can see by the screen, this panel is loaded with talent. Originally on Thursdays, it was just usually me and, of course, Zemi while we wait the return of the Welsh Gamer. But I threw a couple of invites out there and people responded. So it's almost as big as a panel as you would see in either Primetime Gaming or Breakfast with Boom. So I'm proud to say that this is going to be one hell of a show. So listen, before we get into the fun stuff, if you are in the chat, and we have quite a few people already here, do me a favor, if you don't mind, throw this out on Twitter. Let people know we're live. The notification issue has not been addressed with YouTube, and if you are a smaller YouTuber under 10,000 subs, which of course I am, the notifications are just not going out, and it seems as if they are from people that I've talked to inside baseball. They're putting the priority, I should say, to bigger YouTubers, and I suppose it makes sense because that is where Google is going to make their 30%, and at the end of the day, it is a business. But we still count. Oh, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and also throwing this out there on social media, it would be greatly appreciated. So let's get into the panel introductions now. My co-host with the co-most, and I say this all the time, he is the bravest gamer. This is someone that cannot wait to play Resident Evil 3 this evening at midnight in the dark with nothing but his controller, his sandwich that he made yesterday, which it was not hot dogs, fajitas. It was, of course, sausages and peppers, and you would know that if you're Italian like we are. Please welcome Zemi Games.
Well, I'm not Italian, but I sure do love some sausage and peppers. Those are absolutely delicious and just fantastic food. But yeah, super excited to be here. These topics are absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to jump in and just start biting into each one of them. So thank you so much, Boom.
Biting into them like a zombie?
No, like a sausage and pepper sandwich.
You know, I gotta tell you, whoever it was that responded to you, it was the cutest tweet I've ever seen.
Oh, I loved it. It was.
She said to you,
yeah.
"Oh, that's tell the audience what she said because it was awesome."
Yeah, she said something along the lines. I wish I had the tweet in front of me, but she said something along the lines of, "Oh, that's creative, hot dog fajitas," or something like that.
Yes.
Like just like scrummaging through I guess like the refrigerator and just making whatever I could, right? I thought it was adorable, like what she said. I mean, and it really does look like hot dog fajitas.
You know what? It's funny. It got me thinking that if you only had hot dogs and peppers and onions, you could make a meal. So good on her.
It would be tasty too.
I'm sure it'd be quite tasty. That was actually a really cool tweet. Next up, you know him as a teacher that uses gaming to his advantage. Completely ingenious. He runs an incredible show on multiple podcast services that I think everyone should look into. He's probably the smartest guy in this particular room, without a doubt. Please welcome Insipid Ghost.
Thank you for having me, Boom. It is so good to be back here on this panel, hanging out with you guys. Xbox Factor chat, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, no problem, dude. Listen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. You know, Xbox is the best box, and we have a show that's dedicated to it. We already have 107 people in the chat, which means that maybe the notifications are going out. We were just blessed by a very good friend of the show. Sin Vendetta drops an outstanding $10 super chat and says this: "Hey, Boom, sorry to hear you're having issues with your Xbox One X. Hope you get the issues resolved. Here's $10 spot towards a new system if needed." Well, thank you, dude. Super appreciate it. So, you know what? I'm actually going to break down what's been going on with this stupid Xbox in a second, but we have to get into the rest of the panel. Now, Gaming Forte, he is someone that not only I think this community needs right now, he's someone that we all need. Not only is he our inside source to everything GameStop, he's a community member that exemplifies what it means to be a good guy and someone that has podcasting skills and responsibilities of Santa Claus because he's on so many of them. Please welcome Gaming Forte.
Yo, what's up, man? So literally give you a little peek behind the curtain. I was up at my store this morning because I I was able to pick up my copy of Resident Evil this morning. And if you have it if you had it pre-ordered at a GameStop, you can pick it up as early as 12 o'clock today. So go up to your store and see if they actually got those copies in. So I was on my way home with the copy, and I was like thinking about Boom, and I was like, you know what? Dang, I forgot to respond to Boom about being on the show. So I instantly hit him up and said, do you still need me? And I'm here, man. I'm here. Always like to do shows, my man. Boom. It's good to see everybody else in here. It's Sippy Gamer, man. Dude, I saw your Twitter. I love the socks because I have those same exact socks on right now. I have those same. As soon as I saw the picture, I was like, that's a beautiful dog, but those socks, we're thinking alike today, man. But it's always good to be on the show with you guys.
Well, it's great to have you here, dude. And you know what? I live in New York. I don't necessarily know.
Yeah, I know for you. Well, yeah, because your whole state is still shut down.
Because right now, New York is unfortunately the epicenter of what's going on. Like, I don't live anywhere near the city. I am on the outskirts in Westchester County. I'm actually closer to where it originally started in New Rochelle. It was about 4 miles from us. And thankfully, they've gotten it under control. And now the 5 boroughs are suffering tremendously. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's a scary thing, but this is why we're here. We're here to talk about gaming. For you, Boom, give customer. I believe New York is one of the states they're doing this for because your whole city shut down. Right.
Is yours paid off? Your copy of the game?
Yes.
Give customer support a call and let them know that they'll look up your information, and they are sending delivery to the door for people that have them paid off. I don't know what states, but I know some people are confirming that is a thing that they're doing for their state.
Okay, yeah. As soon as the show is done, because I have the collector's edition paid for.
Oh yeah, get that in your possession as fast as possible.
Yes, I definitely will. But I want to welcome the last panel member, and you've heard him on the show not only this week, but you've heard him on other shows before. And I'm proud to announce that or at least for the foreseeable future, Mr. Badbit Games will be joining Breakfast with Boom's panel on a regular basis. And of course, he's here today to talk gaming. Welcome, Mr. Badbit.
Man, I'm happy to be here. I'm also suffering a personal tragedy today as I got the email that no gamer should ever get from Amazon saying that they don't know when my Final Fantasy VII Collector's Edition is going to arrive.
Yikes.
So Gaming Forte, if you got the hookup. Dude, I'm happy to be on. And yeah, I'll be a regular member for the foreseeable future. We were talking about it a little bit before the show. And yeah, I was just like, you know what? I ain't got nothing better to do. I'm here in this house. I don't know when I'm getting out. Economy doesn't look great. So sure, I'll talk about video games every Friday. Let's do it.
I love it. That's great. Well, you know what? Real quick, before we get into the first topic, and I think everyone has been waiting for this, I got to thank my brother from another mother all the way from Florida. Tempest Son with the outstanding $2 super chat and says this, hell of a cast. Phil Spencer flexing that anaconda. I like it. I like your nastiness, my brother. Thank you for the $2 and, of course, the comment. But you know what? Let's break down what everyone is really here to hear about, and that is the tremendous IGN interview with Xbox's own Phil Spencer that was done yesterday. And it was done by Ryan McCaffrey, who is a senior staff member at IGN. And as you've heard me talk about Ryan before, I used to be a huge fan of Ryan. I mean, like to the point where we would go back and forth and talk in some DMs. When his dog was sick, I had donated, of course, because I wanted to help out. Mm-hmm. He kind of changed or shifted his ideology. And I was talking to the guys prior to going to live on the air, and I'm all about being a real person through and through. Like I think that for me personally, I don't think I could be any more transparent with this community than I am. Like you guys pretty much know everything. And I have zero problem sharing that with you, especially bringing my wife, Josette into the conversation, because she is at the forefront, not only of this channel, behind the scenes, but, being a forthcoming and very generous to this community behind the scenes. And so I had to bring her into the mix. With Ryan, in 2014, his I don't want to say loyalty, because I think that you are entitled to have your own opinion. I would never challenge someone. If someone tells me they don't like this for this reason, I'm never gonna challenge it, because you're entitled to that. Unfortunately, I honestly believed that his ideologies from Xbox changed. Instead of changing because there was real bad stuff to talk about, I think he changed to be trending. And I don't like that. So I know I had said a few things that might have been off kilter and certainly out of character for me. Not really using curse words, because I don't like the curse, but I think I might have said something harsh, and he obviously eventually blocked me on Twitter. You know what? That's perfectly fine. But I will say this. I did comment on the video to IGN. Whether it get back to him and he sees it or not, I don't know. I did say it there, and I'll say it live on the air, because a real man will always admit someone's triumph. And if you can't, then maybe you got to look in the mirror. His interview yesterday was fantastic. I think it was very well done, and we're going to open up today's show with that. So in a surprising new episode of IGN's Xbox Unlocked, Ryan McCaffrey, who asked some very interesting questions that Phil Spencer, to be quite honest, was extremely happy to answer. And we have a lot of new details that were revealed, but the biggest news from the interview was the fact that the Xbox Series X is still on track for release this fall. Now, we've heard that statement come from both Sony and Microsoft that, hey, listen, yes, the world is kind of in flux right now, but our consoles are on track. But to hear it from Phil Spencer himself live on the air during this interview, I think is extremely reassuring to many of the Xbox fans and potential new Xbox fans, because that's the one thing I will say. I'm not sure if you guys, because everyone on here is a content creator. Everyone here does podcasts. Everyone here, is interacting with the community. One of the things that I think I'm seeing more now than I've ever seen before is people, first of all, new people coming into the channel, which is greatly appreciated. Obviously I try to run a drama-free show, right? We're here to have fun. And one of the things that I'm very happy to see is that there are a lot of people that are now jumping on the Xbox bandwagon and, and the fun train, saying, because of Phil Spencer, I've actually read this 3 times today in 3 different shows. Hey, Boom, just want to let you know, great show, but I'm buying an Xbox because of Phil Spencer. And wow, this is a bit of a turning of the tide, because all we've heard for the last 5 or 6 years is how terrible and sucky the Xbox brand is. And now people are starting to come around, because they are they are the Xbox that we know and love from the Xbox 360 era, that somehow lost their way in this generation and is now starting to find the path again. And it's really exciting. So, you know what, before I get any more into, I want to get to the panel. And Zemi, I want to start with you first, because obviously, I sent you the show notes and you read everything, so you know what's there. This interview was very telling for a lot of reasons. Besides knowing that we are getting an Xbox Series X this fall, there was a lot of things, that they conversated about that I thought that Ryan that led these questions, and they weren't accusatory in any way. They seem to be based on, let's just have some fun with this interview. Welcome, Phil Spencer. You haven't been here in 3 years. What were your biggest takeaways from this? I think it was 50 minutes. I think it was a 50-minute interview.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long interview, and I actually did not watch it all. I got to around 40 minutes, and then, we had to start the show. But I absolutely love the interview. I thought it was handled amazingly. I thought Phil was very transparent where he could be. And I thought he was very honest. And I really liked the questions as well, because, they obviously, he's Ryan McCaffrey, or he's a journalist, right? He's trying to uncover a story, whatever it may be. But a lot of his stories really kind of resonated me as a fan. I've been kind of asking these same questions, wanting to know more about the Xbox brand. And so I really, really liked the questions that were asked. You know what I mean? None of them seemed to be something that I wasn't interested in or hadn't maybe thought about before. Like, they all seemed very, very well calculated questions. So I really enjoyed the interview for that reason. But, one thing that was kind of touched on, and we've been talking about this, I think the last 2 shows, is not cancellations but delays. And how exactly is that working? And Phil kind of reassured a lot of us that as far as hardware goes, it doesn't really look like there's going to be any delays. Of course, he still left it open, like anything could happen. But from the software side of things, that's where he kind of expects to see most of the delays, and hopefully more of those don't happen. But it's possible. And he also kind of touches base on saying that nothing's more important to Xbox and Microsoft than the safety of their employees, which is completely understandable. So I really like seeing more insight onto that. But another thing that I really enjoyed seeing was him talking about E3, or I guess the lack of E3, and how they're kind of going to move forward with that, relying more on digital media than kind of ever before. And just on like a side note, this it actually kind of made me think of what would be an excellent possible future topic is how much more of an advantage Xbox might actually have in a digital E3 than their competitors, because they do have Mixer, they do have all of the technology and built up, I guess, infrastructure to broadcast, to professionally broadcast, whether we've seen them do it with Inside Xbox, and then Mixer has a ton of different shows that they also produce and create as well. So I just thought that was a little interesting like just a little side bit. But whenever he transitioned, talking about, what's coming, right? And you, me, and I think a lot of us have kind of all said that we want the topic to kind of shift away from hardware and talk about games and just more games, right? And
Right.
Phil kind of, I guess, somewhat reassured us that was very much coming, and that was the direction that they're looking to take. Is obviously there's still hardware things that they need to talk about, but here in like the next few weeks, they're wanting to talk more about games and I guess a little bit less about hardware. So I really actually enjoyed that portion as well. And kind of diving into games, I thought it was very, very interesting. Him kind of, in a nice way of saying, kind of, backpedaling a little bit from the statement that he made a few months ago, talking about how he didn't want to announce any games within 18 months.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting. The new direction that they're taking is, Phil is willing to talk about games, further out than 18 months, but he wants to only do that with studios that they own creating first party content. And I definitely see where they're coming from. They want even more games to talk about, even more stuff to share with fans and stuff like that. And I think it's really, really good how he's kind of, I guess, confronting that that task, right? It doesn't look like he's just wanting to jump in, like, okay, this game it's being made, let's just talk about it, right? He's really diving in, looking at, what's currently being made, making sure that there's a good direction for this game, and that they're, making all of their, I guess, deliverables before talking about it, which I think is really, really good, because I mean, it definitely could be a risk, talking about some of these games way before they're ready to release. But I think he definitely understands the errors from the past with, he mentioned Scalebound, and I think he definitely understands in Fable Legends as well,
Yes.
the errors that the company has done, and he wants to make sure that, even though they are taking somewhat of a risk, he wants to minimize that risk as much as possible. But overall, I thought that the interview was absolutely fantastic. I loved the questions. I loved Phil Spencer's responses, and I just thought the whole thing was very insightful.
You know what? I would agree with you. I 100%. You know what? Let me just read some of the actual key statements that I thought was interesting. Now, according to the article, and I watched the interview twice because I first started dictating stuff while I'm reading, while I'm watching, and then I like to sit back as a fan and just watch. That's why a lot of the times I read the articles from a producer's point of view, then I read it from a fan's point of view, because sometimes you miss certain things as a producer because you're looking for key statements, right? So I listened to it twice. I listened to it last night and once again this morning. So what I did is, just to make sure that I didn't miss anything, I pulled an article from Windows Central, and Spencer was also asked about how he felt regarding the PlayStation 5 specifications that were revealed. And what Phil Spencer said was really interesting, that he felt even better with what the team had built to represent the brand in the next generation. And, as it's already been discussed to the point of nauseum, I think, we know the Xbox Series X has a more powerful CPU and GPU, right? We know that. We're not going to beat that horse anymore. But I want to just go back to the key statements that Phil had to say. And this is coming directly from Phil Spencer. When we saw the public disclosure, I felt even better about the choices that we have made on our platform, and I kind of expected that I would. The hardware team that did the Xbox One X, I have a lot of confidence in them. I give them the time and the targets to go hit. I just believe in their ability to create. Spencer is also confident about the price point that the company is targeting for the Xbox Series X, but no new information, unfortunately, was revealed, even though Ryan McCaffrey did make me laugh, and I laughed twice because he was like, Phil, if you want to kind of give us we'll stop the tapes and you can give us the price, and then we'll start the tapes back up. And it's just funny that even though he knew that there's no way he was going to answer that question, it was fun to see it. But this is what Phil had to say. I feel good about the price we'll be able to get. I feel good about the price and performance capabilities that we have with the Xbox Series X. I feel incredibly strong about the overall package. We think it's a winning plan. We're going to make sure that we stay agile on our pricing. Now, Gaming Forte, I got to bring you into the mix here, because this was the wiggle room I think Phil let everyone, they left themselves a lot of room. And listen, this is just an assumption. And of course, I can obviously make an ass out of myself what I'm about to say, but I'm willing to take a chance, because at least based on the interview, seems that they are rock solid, confident on the product, but more so on the price. By Phil Spencer saying the last part, that we're going to stay agile on our pricing, means that they could logistically go punch for punch with Sony and really push their backs to the door in a way that we have not seen since the beginning of the PS3 360 era, with, of course, the stumbling out of the gate that we saw Sony do with the pricing and the cell technology, right? This is big. What are your thoughts on the potential of having to be for him to say we're going to be agile on the pricing? Could they have two prices ready to go to challenge Sony's PS5?
So, look, that word is probably the most important word that's in that sentence, because it's basically saying that we have a price in mind, but usually when you say, like, we're happy with our price, we're happy where we're going to be, giving this system, letting the world see exactly where the system sits when it comes to price and performance and everything. But when you say the word agile, that means you're willing to move up or down depending on what the market needs compared to what your competition is doing. I think the one thing I really like about what he was saying, and I didn't even get a chance to listen to the whole thing, but from the things that I picked out from it, I just like the transparency that he has when it comes to this stuff. It's like borderline very overconfident, but to a good point. It's like he's taking the information that he has, that he knows that his competitor is doing, and basically saying, well, these are the things that we're doing, and I'm super excited to actually share this stuff with the fans, and we're very confident in the product that we're going to put out there, because this is officially Phil Spencer's Xbox when it comes out with this next system.
Great point.
This is his Xbox. He inherited the thing called the Xbox One, and he just made it a better version of itself over the course of the generation. This is going to be the first time that you can literally look at him and say everything that's happening at the Xbox going forward is because Phil Spencer did it. And choosing those words like agile, being able to discuss that, I'm very happy with where our hardware team is. I love the product they're going to bring to market. Talking about the competition vaguely on how it compares to their system, and it just made them feel like they were going to be even more in a better place. All that stuff sounds really good. And let's be honest, some of this stuff you expect the head of a not billion dollar company, but $1 trillion company, being one of those companies, you expect them to be, a little bit like that and say, this, I'm happy with this, I'm happy with that, because you're not going to say you're not happy because all that stuff hits all these different tabloids and different news sites. But there is still a part of Phil Spencer that the one thing I admire about him the most is he's a gamer first when it comes on top of everything else when it comes to his job. I see him playing games all the time. And the one thing, and I pick and choose a lot of the things that I like that they say in these things. And what's real relevant to me is the fact that not only is the price agile, so we don't know exactly where Sony and Microsoft are going to fall on that. It's just the fact that they are doing the things that the fans want them to do. He talked about how what's the word? How the whole cross-play and cross-generation stuff is a war that isn't won yet. Like, to me, being a multiplayer gamer and being a person that loves playing games on PC, loves playing them on Xbox, it really spoke to me when he talked about that. It was like, that's not over yet, and this is what we are looking to do to help usher that along. And the one thing about Phil Spencer, they put their money where their mouth is, because they literally have systems in place to, like, smart delivery that allows you to say, you buy it once, no matter what system you have, you're going to be able to take advantage of whatever version of that game's going to be, depending on what system you have. And they're saying we want to see that become an industry standard across the whole industry. And those are things that really hit home for me, being a multi-console owner, to hear him be transparent about. Because most of these companies are like, hey, I want our system to thrive. I want my community to thrive. But Phil Spencer gets the bigger picture. He says, no, yes, do I want Xbox to thrive? Yes, everybody knows that because he works for Xbox. He works for one of the biggest companies in the freaking world. But he also gets the fact that it's not just about Xbox being better. It's about gaming, the video game industry in general being better. And how do you do that? Well, you pioneered things like, being able to be very forthright with your fans and say, this is the things that your fans want, and this is what we want to see the industry go to. So there is a lot of different things about this interview that I really truly love, but the price is going to be a fluid situation until somebody comes out and announces that price. I think Xbox, for the first time in my mind, can really hit that $500 price point. I don't think they probably could go lower, because Microsoft's one of those few companies that definitely can do it. I don't think any company wants to lose money on product, but Microsoft's in a situation where if they want to win back fans, this is a way to do it. And I think they're also, people not thinking about this too. Xbox has been making a lot of strides over the course of the last year, especially when it comes to their marketing. More people are going out with even a new system coming out at the end of the year. More people are going out and buying Xboxes at an extreme clip because they already have a PlayStation and they like the direction Microsoft's going in. The more and more people get used to being in a Microsoft ecosystem and they get used to things like Game Pass being an option for them. And yes, I understand Sony has PlayStation Now, but PlayStation doesn't promote it like Xbox does. So it's more of a thing that's consciously in a gamer's mind when you're talking about Xbox. The more they talk about these things to get people in that ecosystem, it's going to be really hard for some people to come off of their Xbox and say, I'm going to go to another platform, or I'm going to buy the other platform that doesn't put as much love and care into those systems like Xbox does. I just think right now, Microsoft has Phil Spencer. PlayStation has a completely change in their regime. So the message of PlayStation, nobody really knows what the message of PlayStation is right now because they don't know what PlayStation's doing because they haven't came out and talked about it a lot. Where Phil Spencer for the last 2-3 years has been steady on the pace of everything that his fans want to hear from him. And some of it, guess what? Some of it is a lot of company speak, and I get that because that's the world we're in. But there's a lot of nuggets in there, like when he talks about cross-play, cross-progression, and cross-buy. Those are things that I believe that is 100% to me as a gamer that I love. And that's when I know Phil Spencer's in it for gamers, because he's talking about the things that not only give money to Microsoft, but to everyone else as gaming as a whole.
You know, it's a great point. You know, value being at the forefront of gaming for Xbox is big. And what I thought was interesting when they started talking about price, even though they weren't specific of what the price was going to be. And I agree with you with them saying being able to stay agile on pricing is the biggest part of that entire sentence. But I thought what the key factor was when he mentioned that Microsoft, meaning Satya Nadella, being on board to make big moves that they normally would not have the backing for. So I mean that what that tells me is that they really want to win this generation, and if they're willing, and they might be willing to take a loss to do that up front, and on the back end through all the services make that money back. It's an interesting tactic, but you know what, Luke, I want to get you in here, but I just got to catch up on some of these super chats so I don't forget. Sin Vendetta once again shows his outstanding generosity and drops another super chat for $5 and says this: shout out to Mr. Badbits. Oh, when I lose it. Oh, my God,
get out of here. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
He says this, Mr. Badbit. Shout out to Mr. Badbit for championing behind Bloodborne, which I agree is the best game of this generation. And I would be hard-pressed to disagree with that, even though I didn't really put a lot of time into it. It is an amazing title. And to be honest, it is almost heartbreaking that we're not, or we, because I'm going to still buy it even though I suck at it, are not getting a confirmed sequel.
How long has it been since Bloodborne came out?
It's been 1,843 days.
That's what I thought. All right.
Well, listen, you can tell you're a fan if you can say how many days. But listen, Eagles fan 76 drops a $2 super chat and says this: Xbox CEO down one plan Sony. Do you hear end fighting? I'm not sure what that means, dude. But if you rewrite it and put it back in, and I'll read it again. Pixelbit G, a good friend of the show, thank you for being here, but also thank you for your generosity with the $5 object. And he says this: Digital Foundry compared the 5700 versus the 5700 XT, faster GPU with less CUs versus slower with more CUs. The slower one apparently won, no debate. Left PS5 is the lesser console. Like I said, we have talked to the point of nauseum about power. I think it's honestly clear where the power lies. That, again, I want to stress this: it does not necessarily mean that the PlayStation 5 is going to be any less capable of a console. If like myself, if you're going to buy both, you want to enjoy both consoles, and I intend to do so. If you are someone that only plays Xbox and you were tired of being browbeaten, so maybe you're feeling a little happy that your console or our console is going to be more powerful. That's great, but there's a lot of underlining things that we're actually going to talk about in the next topic, regarding a lot of the conversation that has been left off the table, because all we're talking about is T-flops. All we're talking about is ray tracing and VRS and DirectX 12. But there's so much more that may be simplistic in theory and thought. But when we're going to break it down, it's going to make a lot of sense.
Let me say something real quick to that, because like what you just said to me rings true on a lot of different fronts. Like Xbox has the power; they have the power crown. That's not even debatable anymore. But there's a lot of articles and a lot of developers out there that says Sony has the speed. But when you look at all these different articles where they talk about it, even Phil Spencer says in the interview, he says with our system, we're looking at like no load screens. No load screens at all on both systems. So where does the speed really come into play? You know, PlayStation is saying you're in and out of your games in seconds. Xbox is saying the same thing. That doesn't mean that the PlayStation is not more faster than the Xbox, but Xbox is doing the same thing. So a lot of this stuff is all marginable. PlayStation may be a little bit faster. Xbox is going to be a little bit stronger. But guess what? All your games are still going to perform the same way. And that's why I always try to tell people, just pick the system that you love. And don't worry about all the fanboy stuff in the end, because the fanboy stuff is going to drive you more crazy than anything unless you live in that, unless you are one of those people that just live in that fanboy world. And at that point, your opinion really doesn't matter.
Right. No, I agree. You know, Luke, let me get you in on this particular topic. You know, obviously there was a lot said in this interview. One specific item that I'll bring up, because obviously Forte just did, is they Xbox Series X looks to eliminate loading times altogether, and this is coming directly from Phil Spencer. It's not only is it surprising that particular sentence comes out of his mouth, it's impressive, because all we've been talking about is power. Right. And the speed, narrative or conversation has completely been on Sony's side, simply because they have a better SSD. I mean, again, a confirmed information. No need for any more clarification. But when you hear that, not only is the Series X going to have the power in both the CPU and GPU, now we're starting to hear, well, we're looking to eliminate load times altogether, so you're not going to have any. And now we're talking about being able to pivot on price. Could all of this be coming together for Microsoft in a way that might just change the industry, especially for Microsoft moving forward?
100% yes. There is nothing to take away from this interview before you take away confidence. Confidence seemed to ooze from every single one of his sentences, even when he acknowledges the downfall. And when you look at what is being presented from the industry on the Xbox side, they're coming with a multi-pillar approach.
Yes.
They're utilizing xCloud to mitigate speed and hardware barriers. He talked about Xbox Game Pass being a way to hummingbird effect, get people into different games. But another barrier of that is that they have to download it. But with xCloud, that is no longer an issue. Thus, speed is handled on their end. And I would argue that even right now, amidst our current situation, they're having to work with and deal with methods of delivering information via the Azure cloud and gaming services in a high demand period. I think the most recent statistic I saw was that everything with Azure is up 775% prior to the pandemic. And what that suggests to me is that they are, whether they meant for it to happen or not, they're stress testing a number of their services that will provide that speed later on from a cloud-based perspective.
Yes.
So how they accomplish it on hardware will be one thing, but they're not taking hardware as their only method of game delivery. They're also taking cloud-based services, not to mention the software approach. And they've worked a lot on how to mitigate speeds between controller and Xbox, between Xbox and network, between network and Xbox back to it, and Xbox to TV. They are consistently working on ways to reduce the latency in between all of that. So I was very encouraged by a number of aspects of the way that Microsoft is approaching this next generation. And I do think that together in combination, a lot of those things have the potential to hit the industry. One of the things McCaffrey asked him was whether or not he felt that Microsoft pushed Sony and PlayStation to move that back compat, and he politely declined to say yes. But the onus is there. PlayStation now began improving its services when Game Pass really started hitting its stride. Because it didn't hit stride right out the gate. Furthermore, back compat became a comfortable conversation for Sony to begin having when Xbox began using it as a pillar of its strategy going forward. Years ago, we heard that games would be forward compatible. And in making things forward compatible, you are also making them back compat. And so I think that is a comfortable thing. And I use backward compatibility quite often.
Me too. I'm right there with you. Yep.
And they see the data. They would not make an investment in something that was not paying a dividend somewhere in their overall strategy.
You know what? Like I said, I think. Look, again, this we're not on this show. We're not taking digs at Sony, right? Because I think everybody on this panel wants PlayStation 5. Everybody understands that the strength in the PlayStation brand has been and will continue to be their first party games. Now, a lot of people on the panel, I mean, in the chat, may disagree with me. Where I like their single player, over the shoulder, adult themed, story driven content. Now, some people are like, hey, it looks all the same to me, Boom. And you know what? If you gave me a choice of, multiplayer, I would take the single player game that told a story that I can sit there with my headphones on and really get to know and love the character and world. But that's me.
Boom, they can look all the same all they want, but if people are having fun, then
that's what matters.
That was the old Ubisoft strategy. And more to the point, if I pick up God of War, that feels different than Horizon Zero Dawn, and that feels different than Days. It just does. So those are tired arguments, I think, made by people that either want to invest in a war or they haven't played them themselves. I don't know if Bandit would agree.
I think I would totally agree on that. When people are like, when people are like, Sony games are all the same, and then like Sony people go, Xbox games are all the same. It's just like, you just want games that you like. And when people try to preach what games they like on PlayStation, they describe Xbox games. So I'm just like, so then just stick with your Xbox games. And when I hear Sony people go, if Xbox had like something like The Last of Us, something like Uncharted, I'm like, well, it doesn't. So just stick to your PlayStation. You're fine. You know what I mean?
It's funny because I'm gonna get you right in here, Mr. Bear, because I love your opinion and the way that you attack these topics. But real quick, Foreign Object drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat and says this: does the panel think Phil Spencer has a PS4? Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Yes.
Think about it. How better? He does. He actually said that. How better to understand the competition than to test their product for yourself? And I would agree with that. And listen, I think not only does he have one, his daughters are big gamers, man. And I think that they probably have multiple PlayStation 4s. I know for a fact that they have multiple Switches because he's talked about it. So, I mean, look, let me say, I can go on all day about many things that I love about Phil Spencer. I think at the end of the day, the cherry on top of the banana boat sundae in front of us that is in fact Phil Spencer is the fact that he's a gamer. He's a gamer at the end of the day, and he loves playing games. He just happens to be a dude that's in charge of the entire Xbox division, and he sits on the right hand of Satya Nadella. So yeah, he's a big businessman. He's probably making a ridiculous amount of money, and he probably lives in a beautiful home and has multiple cars. But at the core, what led him to this, where he's sitting right now, is that he's a gamer, and that is awesome. So you know what, Mr. Badbit, let me get you in on this before we move on to the next topic. As we know, and we just discussed, the Series X wants to eliminate load times. They're going to be doing a lot of things different with this console than we've ever seen before, and I'm interested to see, or more specifically, hear what as someone that is predominantly a PlayStation player, like you, that is your console of choice first, just like Xbox is mine. But of course, with saying that, neither of us, I think, would go out of our way to badmouth the other console, because we play there as well. What, for you as a fan of a Sony fan first, which is fair, think about this particular interview with IGN?
I think that we give people like Shuhei Yoshida, people like Miyamoto, people like Phil Spencer this cult status.
Yes,
they are the the brands themselves. Talking about the Phil Spencer interview, this is what a leader sounds like, guys. When
great point.
He's charismatic, he's also humbled, he's not braggadocious, he is there talking about his love, his passion, his direction for his company. So like, shooting back over to Luke's comment, when Microsoft did push Sony to do crossplay, and seeing Phil Spencer going and taking a step back and going, well, I'm not going to say what our competition or what we made our competition, do or not do. But what I will say is that people like us, like Tim Sweeney at Epic, are pushing this notion that cross plays for everyone. And it's not everywhere yet. It will be, but the battle's not won. I like
love
that.
it. Great point. Yes.
I love the fact that when he's talking about the quote that you pulled up, it's a little misquoted because when he talks about how confident he is in and it's not you're doing, it's the article's doing.
I pulled it directly from Windows Central.
Yeah, God damn it, Windows. Just get it together. No, when he talks about the PlayStation 5, again, a leader leads and is confident in their product, and also giving props where props is due. He's just like, yeah, after listening to Mark Cerny's speech about ears, I walked away more confident. And when he talked about the PlayStation 5, he's like, yeah, no, I like what they're doing with their SSD. Yeah, I like what they're doing, with the whole no load times. I like what they're doing with Tempest Audio, giving them credit and then going, and I'm also confident in what we have and what our teams built, because I'm a software guy and we understand that if there is a bridge between what the software guys need and what the hardware guys want, we're going to make something really awesome. And that's what I think, the Xbox Series X is. And also tackling like the no optical port, going, yeah, listen.
Yeah, that was a good question.
And
I like a good question.
I like what he said. It's like, we knew we were walking on a tightrope when talking about, forward compatibility of hardware, but we talked to the headset manufacturers and seeing what they wanted and where they think the future of their products is going. And seeing that type of wording from Phil made me confident, because gang, I'm going to say it right here, right now. And I know it's going to get the chat angry as all hell. I've been an Xbox guy since the inception of the Xbox, like since launch. I've been an Xbox Live guy since the beta. I've been there through and through. And let me tell you something, through generation, I don't go to a console for power. I go for what a console is offering me, games, and what they're offering me as a consumer. When I switched over to the PlayStation 4, it is not because the PlayStation 4 was more powerful. It was because of the mantra that they stuck through this generation of by the gamers for the gamers.
Yeah.
That is why I switched. To me, power does not matter. It doesn't at all. I have a 2080 Ti in my PC. If power mattered, I would just be strictly playing on my PC, but I choose not to because, oh my God, mouse and keyboard's gross. And the fact that there are experiences that I get from my consoles that I don't get from my PC. And to me, what truly matters is direction, messaging, and delivery. Those are the things that really matter. It's what Phil is saying, and what he is saying, he's speaking not as the head of Microsoft, but he's speaking to us as a gamer. And that's the thing that is super important. I think Phil Spencer's confident because he has the messaging. And we're seeing Microsoft through and through this year and the beginning of December tackle messaging and nail it through and through. Yeah, there have been some missteps, but it's not like the Mystery Science Theater thing that PlayStation did a few weeks ago. Microsoft is showing you what this console is capable of. He is showing you their vision of the future of Xbox. And to me, him talking about towards the end of the interview where, one of his strangest places where he ever played xCloud.
Yeah, that was funny.
In a bus in Nairobi, and everybody was looking at him and like crowding around him as he was saying in the story. That goes to show what the power of Xbox truly lies, because we're seeing things like in South Korea, right? The numbers of xCloud uses is through the roof.
It's outrageous, dude. The numbers.
To see that mobile mindset going into the Asian audiences like a South Korea or like a Japan is going to matter way more. And to see him also say, yeah, when I visit Japan, I am depressed that we don't have a bigger presence there. It's that power of xCloud that is going to get Microsoft in the houses of these Eastern audiences.
Yes, great.
Way more than the power. Yeah.
Did you guys hear what he said about the Asian market, specifically Japan, when he was asked about releasing the system in only certain markets right away and how they will not do that? I loved hearing that. That was so smart.
The most important thing too for me, if I can just say this, is when he was pressed many times of, is Halo going to get delayed? Is Xbox going to get delayed? And him through and through saying what matters the most is our safety of our employees and our distribution line. And I think that's what the biggest takeaway is, gang. He's saying right now he doesn't see an option where it's going to get delayed, but if it does, the safety of his employees are way more important than a console, and I respect that a lot. And
leadership.
Yeah.
That statement about leadership that you made earlier on when you started talking, that and the sentiment that he is portraying, that will pay dividends on a business side when the media starts covering the Xbox Series X. Yeah. When people are writing articles, they will reference that feel-good moment, that mentality, and that leadership will pay a financial dividend down the line that we probably won't be able to truly quantify, but to Babbitt's point, it makes a strong case for this company. Outwardly seems to be going in the right direction. They were one of the first to shift to work from at home. Microsoft Teams is making efforts and strides to continue its work. Azure cloud services are up. Those will paint a narrative well before the Series X enters the first customer's hands in the way that it is covered and the narrative that is written. And because it's the right thing to do, it's a wonderful story, but it will make a big difference on a business side. And there's something to be said for that.
And just to see the forward and the backwards compatibility, again, I'm loving this Xbox that I am seeing. Again, like I see some shade at PlayStation for lack of backwards compatibility. You're totally right. Like the PS3 was a huge mess up. It's a huge dud. And to see Microsoft going, no, the products that this ecosystem that we're building, we are trying to break the barriers of. That's awesome. I'm not a big backwards compatible guy. I'm the guy of old is old, and I'm just here for the newest thing. I know I'm a terrible human being for that.
No, that's okay. That's perfectly okay.
No, he's terrible. He's terrible.
Yeah.
Tell him.
No, I try to go back to GoldenEye. Try to go back to like things like GoldenEye. You can't do it. It's impossible.
Try going back to play Resident Evil 2, which I did after playing Resident Evil 2 19. Go play 98 and tell me how you feel.
Exactly. I can't do it.
I just got the 1K on Doom 64, guys.
Get out of here, Liz.
No, you know what? I
understand where you're coming from, buddy.
Yeah.
I understand. I've tried playing like San Andreas again, and it's really hard. I understand where you're coming from, Bit. Don't let these people bully you.
No, man.
Let the hate rain through me. And
that's okay. You know what? Real quick, let me just catch up on some of these super chats, and I want to just I'll get anyone's last word, and then we'll move on to the next topic, which is I think it's going to be a good one because even though it might be considered spicy by its title, it wasn't intentional at all. It's just simply the way I see things playing out. Foreign Object drops an additional $5 super chat and says this. So with that said, he knows firsthand the caliber of games the Xbox ecosystem needs. That's first of all, Foreign Object. That's a great point because just as much as Sony is learning and pulling from Microsoft in regards to some of their future decisions, I think Microsoft can easily see what made the PlayStation 4 so powerful in regards to fandom, not so much powerful in regards to power. And again, I agree with Bad Bit. Power is great. Power is going to be the first, I guess, sentence in a conversation. Your console does not have as much power as mine. I hear you. But at the end of the day, Microsoft saw Sony prevail the entire generations because of what? Their first party support. And what they were putting out, and listen, if you're tired of hearing me say this, that's fine. But you know how I feel when I talk about Sony's first party. I get goosebumps. I get excited because I'm a gamer. Mm-hmm. And they have the games that I enjoy playing. Now, granted, I'll play through God of War. And I'll put an additional maybe 20 hours in there trying to get trophies and close out everything I can close out. That goes for almost every one of them. Because I enjoy that big open world searching for stuff. It's just I like it as a gamer. Yeah. Trust me when I tell you, Phil Spencer sees what worked and what didn't work. And one of the things that didn't work was their first party. And that's why they went out and they have, again, we know 15. We're hearing 16. We don't know who the 16th is, if there is, in fact, one. But let me just get this other super chat. Sin Vendetta, who, again, this is just unbelievable. His generosity completely has blown me away. He drops a $25 super chat and says this. Question for Gaming Forte. I usually pre-order all of my new consoles through GameStop, and I'm right there with you. I do every console. I think from my God, going back 100 years, I've been buying them there through GameStop as long as they've been around. He says so I can pay them off over time. That's exactly what I do. He says, but with GameStop's foundation looking more shaky, would you still recommend pre-ordering with them? That's for you, Gaming Forte.
So that's an actual good question because me and Bad Bit, we were on Brap yesterday. And I actually brought this up, and I think it's probably, especially with the scarcity that I think these systems are going to have. I think we're not going to have we're going to have a supply restraint, but we're not going to have a delay. So your only options are retail or ship from store to home, like Amazon and stuff. When it comes to supply restraints, I wouldn't trust my $500-$600 product to be shipped to me.
I'm right there with you.
Because what happens is when you order on a website that has, to an extent, an unlimited resource where you don't know how many they actually have to pre-order, they could cancel your pre-order at any time. That's something that could definitely happen on the internet when it comes to, shipping and delays and stuff like that. Versus if you go into a store and do it, the company has an allocation. They know how many they're getting, so they only take so many pre-orders on it. That's why on Brap yesterday, I was telling people, go to a brick and mortar. It don't have to be GameStop. Yes. It can be any brick and mortar that you feel comfortable shopping at, but go into a store and pre-order these systems when they come out, because one, you're going to get that system because they're going to deliver those systems to that store. I know some places like Best Buy, you still have that issue and stuff, but that's mostly because they deal in just multiple things outside of just gaming. Not to toot any horns about GameStop or anything, but when you pre-order something at GameStop for system related stuff, you're getting it. You're getting it because they only pre-order what they actually need, and them being on that foundation that people talk about is why they're going to deliver on that, because they can't afford not to. So I don't expect GameStop's not going anywhere in the next 6-7 months. I mean, they're not going anywhere for a couple of years. The company's going through a big restructuring. They'll downsize the company to a reasonable pace before that even becomes a situation. So when it comes to this generation, I think it's very possible still to do it at the retail level like GameStop. And I suggest everybody do it that way, just so you don't miss out on the next generation because Amazon decides to cancel your pre-order because they overestimated what they stock.
Yeah, no, and you don't get it on day one. Like, again, that email breaks my gosh dang heart. But like, there's something too. It's like these things are being like flown, they're being shipped here, but there's something about getting in the store that I feel more secure about.
Yes, I agree. I love going to. First of all, listen. If you guys, you've heard me talk about this before. Before GameStop was GameStop, I worked at a place called Funkoland. I had my own store. This is going back, Jesus, man, 25 plus years, because I did 21 years as a New York City police officer, and that was my job right before leaving to my career. I had my own store in Nanuet, New York.
Ooh, I can't believe they gave. I know Nanuet. Yeah,
I can't believe they gave me a store. Oh my God. Ridiculous. But I had my own store, and it was called Funkoland. That's way, way, way back in the days. Some of my biggest childhood friends who were like all brothers still meet up once a year for that, game of the year dinner that we do. Yeah, it's very nerdy, but we do it every year. We were doing it for like the last 8 years. We're all ex-game, Funkoland, employees that we all met there. And I will say this, for me anyway, even though I'm going to be 50 in September, there is no more excitement that I can get with gaming when it comes to going into a GameStop to pick up my console, because I do exactly what Sin Vendetta does. What I usually do is I drop half down, and then every time I get paid, I drop until it's paid off. What I actually used to do, and guys at work broke my balls all the time over this, is I would take the crappier midnight overtime gigs to basically pay off for gaming. I worked for gaming. Like, I literally did overtime to simply pay for gaming. It was they broke my balls over that. They said, who does that? People buy new cars, go on vacation, you're gaming. Whatever. It's probably why I still look so young. I don't know. What to
I just think the biggest thing is outside of just the whole pay over time aspect of it, because
I love it. Yeah,
that's probably one of the bigger, probably honestly the main reason people would like to go into retail and do it. But the other thing is you can't trade in your stuff in Amazon. Like,
that is correct.
We're all sitting on these Xbox One X's, and yes, the Xbox One X is a fabulous system, but if you got two of them and you want to upgrade one, why would you're not going to keep both. You're going to use one of those as cannon fodder to upgrade to the next system. And that gives you an option when you go into a brick and mortar store. Even if you get 150, 200, 250 bucks, that's half the price of your next system. And let's say you got your system already paid off because you did what Boone said, paid on it over time, got that already taken care of. That's $250 towards new accessories.
You better believe it. Yes.
Xbox Game Pass, it's a whole bunch of stuff that you could do with that. And then especially this is like the second year in a row. If both systems launch this year, we're going to get multi-consoles within weeks of each other, if not in the same week. So if you're like me, already pretty much have your new Xbox paid off, that's an option for you to, be able to dabble in both systems again, because I know Boone is going to get both, Batman getting both, pretty much everybody's getting both. And
Forte.
Dropping $1,200 in 1 week is hard.
Now, Forte, let me tell you the real world struggle here, brother. I got a Scorpio edition on my shelf, and I got the Gears limited edition, both 1Xs. I also want to get both systems. I don't know which one to trade in, man. So, chat, you got help me out. Which one do I do?
Say
what do
keep
I do?
the Gears. Keep the Gears. Get rid of Scorpio. I'm sorry. It's just one word on there. It just says whereas the Gears
but
is the
Scorpio.
I know.
I mean, but the Scorpio's the Scorpio. I mean, there will be other Gears like special edition consoles.
See, I'm in that same boat because I have a original Xbox. I have an Xbox One X, and I have a Scorpio, and I have my Spider-Man PlayStation 4 Pro.
Oh, I'd never get rid of that, dude.
I'm never
get rid of that.
PlayStation 4 Pro, I will never get rid. I will sell that to a person online before I give it up for less than $400. So
yeah,
that. But I'm like, what's the name? Between my Pro and my regular one, even though my regular X is a newer system and my Pro is my Scorpio is a day one, I haven't had any issues with my Scorpio. So I probably will keep that one and upgrade the other one just so I can have a collector's item that most people won't have anymore. Yeah,
no, I'm not. I agree. Real quick, what I want to do is I just want to make sure I'm caught up on all super chats because I don't want to miss anybody, because I honestly get sick to my stomach if I do, because people don't owe me anything, and if I forget to actually announce it, I do get depressed. Okay, so I'm up to date. What I want to do is I want to move on to the next topic. And as you can see by the headline, it's asking a question, is Microsoft setting up Sony's PS5 for the 1-2 knockout punch? And we're going to break this down exactly what it means. Now, it's not meant as clickbait. It's truly not, because once I break it down and you understand, you're like, oh, I see where Boone was going with this. So listen. With the confirmation that next generation will be arriving on time, and we're getting this from both Sony and Microsoft, and we got it from the horse's mouth, more specifically Phil Spencer, we have a very clear indication that one has certain advantages of the over the other, which we've discussed, right? We understand that both are going to have different things that are going to make it a better system for their fans. We're well aware of that. And as great as all of these new technologies are, and what do I mean by technologies? And like I said, I mean VRS, right? DirectX 12, faster SSDs, T-flops, 9.2, 10.3 boost mode versus 12.10,000. Those are all great, right? But at the end of the day, the 1-2 knockout punch that I am talking about has nothing to do with any of those. And I honestly believe they have been left out of the conversation recently. And while listening to this Sunday's outstanding Iron Lord podcast, which had Bill Stillwell on, if you did not listen to this show, shame on you. Get over there, sub my brother's channel, and he's not my real brother, but they're my brothers nonetheless. They're my brothers from another mother. Get over there and sub their channel and listen to it. Bill Stillwell was there the whole show, and the show was over 3 hours, which is crazy. This particular while listening to that particular show, this is how I create content. Not that I'm using anything from their show, but their show was so thought provoking that said, you know what, no one's talking about these particular things. Now, what I'm talking about are three major pieces of Microsoft's plans for the next generation that either Sony does not have, or has not really addressed to the point where we have a complete understanding. Xbox Game Pass, Project X Cloud, and backwards compatibility. And they seem to have, in my opinion, been kind of swept under the table. And I think that is something that I want to do on my show, to bring that back into the conversation. And, obviously in Business 101, there's a very important strategy call that's clearly being used by Microsoft in the newly revamped marketing team. This term that I'm talking about is called competitive advantage. And there are three important principles that make this work wonders for both big and small businesses. And here they are: benefits, target market, and competition. Now, this may sound simplistic, though I can assure you it is not. And it has become a battle cry of sorts for Microsoft that seems to have turned the tide concerning marketing and brand awareness, as well as we know that there are some key things to changing what will happen this generation. And I think Microsoft is onto something. It's the current mindshare dominance that could propel the Xbox Series X, and I'm going to say S because I know that it exists, into the lead when we move away from what occurred in the last 6 years. Now, both Xbox, Project X Cloud, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate have been in the work for years prior to us even knowing about their existence, and all of that R&D seems to be on the back end, which is going to equate to the bread-winning move from the current gen into the next. Now, the three services together seem to be those cogs that make this massive engine move. And I think that if you took one of these out, regardless of which one you wanted to remove, the engine would stall. And the engine I'm talking about is Microsoft's or Phil Spencer's plan to be a much different, more pro-consumer, if they can even do any better than they're already doing, and a more aggressive marketing Microsoft that we've never seen before. Now, I'm going to go immediately to Zemi Games on this, because Zemi, you've been on the show for quite a bit, and one of the things that we've talked about in separate occasions have been Game Pass, have been Project X Cloud, and of course backwards compatibility. But when you put those three things together and you add a better GPU and a better CPU and VRS and ray tracing and a separate audio card that's a chip directly on the system, and everything else Microsoft is bringing to the table, my God, it sounds like they have a winning combination. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge advantage. I mean, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's something that PlayStation just really can't rep. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, PlayStation has a lot of things that they do. But they don't have anything to kind of help combat these three things. I mean, their backwards compatibility is kind of weak compared to Xbox.
You can say it's trash. It's okay.
No, I'm not going to say it's trash. I mean, I think it's kind of weak. I mean, obviously, not being able to have your PlayStation 3 games, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1 games, yeah, I mean, that really, really, really does suck.
Yeah.
But, like the whole PS4, how they're doing that, bringing the 100 plus games forward, I don't think that is, an unreasonable thing for them to be doing. I mean, Xbox literally did it this generation and everyone was fine with that. So, yeah. I mean, I think that, I mean, obviously Xbox is definitely holding, the better cards as far as backwards compatibility goes. But, the two main things that I think really, hits at Sony hard is Game Pass. I mean, there's still nothing out on the market that even comes close to offering the same value for Game Pass, right? I mean, it's amazing. $15 a month. On the high end. That's if you want Xbox Live and Game Pass for PC included with that. Otherwise, it's $10. But access to 200 plus games, you know, all first party games coming day and date. I mean, that is just absolutely unheard of, you know, value wise.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's heard of now because, you know, Game Pass is a thing, but you know, the point's still there. So that's a huge advantage, and it's leaps and bounds better than PlayStation Now from my personal experience, you know, playing with both. And then xCloud is just such a huge competitive advantage to finally be able to, you know, have that opportunity to bring in that new audience of gamers that were previously unreachable, meaning, you know, the mobile gaming market. That is huge as well, because on PlayStation side of thing, they're really only appealing to console gamers, whereas Xbox is appealing to not only console gamers, but PC gamers with, you know, Game Pass for PC, and then now also mobile gaming. So it gives them such a wider, you know, capability of bringing in a lot more customers than what PlayStation is currently set with. And so it's definitely a huge advantage. I don't know how big of an advantage we could really like quantify it being as, you know, I don't know how many PlayStation, you know, 4 users are going to come over to Xbox. I'm sure a lot of casual consumers are, but I don't think it's going to be, you know, like the army coming over the hill, so to say. But you know, it is definitely an advantage. It definitely plays to Xbox extremely well. And you know, I think one thing that we're going to see from xCloud is we're going to see an Xbox that's going to be able to enter in some of those tougher markets a lot easier this generation. And as far as Game Pass, I mean, for me personally, I'm absolutely stoked with Game Pass. It's an amazing value. You know, I've already said that, but I think that we're going to see a lot of gamers kind of transition, hopefully, over to, you know, Xbox, either, you know, via their mobile, you know, phones, or possibly by flat out going and buying a console just to have access to that huge catalog of games for that low monthly price. That's all I had to say. Boom, you there?
Someone's muted and they don't know it. That's what's happening right now.
That's exactly what happened. Because
Boom was
the whole
answering
conversation.
He was answering the door. He was the UPS guy was dropping off his copy of Resident Evil 3.
I'm hoping that I can still get it. It's paid for. So I mean, I have to wait for the store to eventually open to get it. That's fine. But I hope that the GameStop be like, no, we looked it up, we see your order, you know, we'll send it. That's gonna be even better.
I wish people were like you, Boom, and actually thought like that, because that's a big problem right now. So many people are like worried about their pre-orders, but like, listen, your stuff will be there even if your store isn't open now. I wish people just literally thought like you, like, there's a lot more going on in this world.
There is more important stuff in the world, yes, than me getting my Jill Valentine collector's statue.
It will be there when it's finally open if you have to not get it shipped to you.
You know what I've already did. I told you I talked about this privately with Gaming Forte. I had $875 in GameStop gift cards that I've been holding on to. Yes. Because usually, and this is going back to my birthday of last year, which was in September. So every time I received a gift, because most people know, like, they really can't buy me anything because I kind of buy everything, and to drive my wife crazy. Trust me when I tell you. I say, listen, if you really want to, you know, make me excited, get me a GameStop gift cards, because I'll use it. So I've been sitting on these gift cards, anticipating, waiting to pre-order both consoles, and you know, whatever I had to pay extra, I would just pay out of pocket. No problem. I mean, I'm not rich by any stretch of the truth, but this is why I'm saving my gift cards. But no, right now it's you know, again, what I wound up doing is I wound up just buying it digitally. I bought it digitally, and if I get the if I still do get the copy, what I'll probably wind up doing is just giving it away on the show. I'll do like a raffle, you know, show up in the chat, and I'll put everyone's name into it, and I'll run it through my picker, and whoever wins, I'll send it to them, you know, free of charge. Because I'm not going to hold 2 copies. That's ridiculous. But you know, Mr. Badbit, I want to get you in here next, because there are 3 things that I think currently Sony can do and should do better, and I believe they're going to do better. You know, PS Now, for me, is not what I want from Sony. I think having first-party games in there is awesome, but having a 3-month expiration date, I think, is a huge mistake. I think that not having first-party games day and date is a mistake, but I understand from a business practice why they do that. Their streaming solution has always been in it, and they were at the forefront of this. Remember, you could stream your remote. You could remote play games from your PlayStation 4.
Yep.
Right now, you can still do that, and I don't necessarily know if that's the route they're going to go for the PlayStation 5. I'm hoping that because they signed the deal with Microsoft to use the Azure servers, that whatever they're currently working on is going to be more practical, where it's just going to be cloud-based. So I think they're going to be doing better there. Though I think the third and biggest advantage that Microsoft has, and they've been growing and nurturing this for years, has been the backwards compatibility issue. Yep. And I think what Mark Cerny went up there and said, it's set a fire to the internet that's still burning a little bit, because they said, well, we only have 100, but we're currently picking from that 100 the most popular games, and then he had to backtrack from that. But I think one of the back end issues with that statement was, when you look at Microsoft, they're up front and they tell you, we don't have to. The third party developers don't have to do anything other than give us permission. Yep. The console takes care of everything else, which is freaking impressive. Yep. Whereas Sony, on the other hand, they have to send this stuff back to their third party and second party and say, guys, can you make this work on our console? I think that's a disadvantage. For you personally, do you agree or disagree, which I'm very interested to hear, my analogy about the 1-2-3 or 1-2-3 or 1-2 knockout punch with these subset of cogs that no one is really talking about?
And this is something that I've been banging on the drum for a while now, and I think Zemi was getting there as well, which is, look, Microsoft could come out being the more expensive console of this generation. That's fine, because all they really need to do is come out going, hey, so this box is $500, right? We're just assuming that the PlayStation is 400 and this box is $5. They go, okay, listen, we're $500, but here's the selling point: you get a month or 3 months of Xbox Live Ultimate, Game Pass Ultimate for 3 months, and all the games that are launch games for the Series X, each and every one of them, are going to be on Game Pass day one. And I think that is how you get people. That is the true 1-2 punch. If these consoles were equal power and equal price, that is already the advantage of the Series X, is going, hey, listen, the games that you love, like Halo Infinite, the big seller, you don't need to buy it.
It's the ultimate packing, if you think about it.
It is the ultimate packing, because theoretically we're going to get at least, anywhere from 2 to 6 games right then and there at launch day that you don't need to buy. You don't need to worry about Xbox Live. It's right there for you. And then it gets you into the ecosystem, gets you into Game Pass. It'll get you subscribed to that service. That's the power of what Series X has. Now, here's the thing. I've tried PS Now. It's a good service, and the streaming capabilities, I played Doom 2016. I was actually impressed with, because everybody keeps banging the horse that it's like the worst thing ever, and I never really.
I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I think for me personally, it's not where it needs to be. And
that's the thing, is it's all right. It's not at Game Pass levels of amazing, because how PS Now is kind of. It's kind of weighted as PlayStation doesn't need to put their games for day and date, because they sell like hotcakes.
They do sell like hotcakes.
So they're not incentivized to bring those games onto the PlayStation Now platform, but it's also then less of an incentive to get PlayStation Now or to keep it. My whole thing is like, hey, listen, Horizon Zero Dawn was, or actually better example, God of War was there for 3 months. Just leave God of War there. Like,
exactly.
How about a year after launch, it's just there on your on the system, and then it's an incentive. It's incentivizing people to go, hey, I got this backlog, or hey, I heard great things about God of War. Oh crap, it's there on PlayStation Now. Let me try it out. I don't think I know there's like 800 games, but like half of which I'm not going to bother with. And again, if you don't have great internet, I have gigabit. I should let that out known. Yeah, like a lot of them are streaming. So I think PlayStation Now's problem is it needs to be streamlined, and it has to be better incentives of why you should be playing there. But it's also just against a service that is just such a value to gamers, no matter the ecosystem. Like there is nothing that like Apple Arcade can't hold a candle to the Game Pass. You know what I mean? What I would like to see PlayStation Now become, though, is a thing where, hey, listen, your prior PlayStation exclusives are on here. Your back catalog, your PS1, your PS2, like your PlayStation classics live here. I think that would be a great incentive.
That's actually, that'd be actually a great tagline. You should work for marketing.
Yeah, I know. It's like I got a degree in this. And the other thing is, it should be also a place for indies.
Yes,
that's what I
great
really
point.
Want.
That is, you know what? That is another thing that I didn't even have in the write-up, and that is a fantastic point, because the one advantage, or one of many advantages, I think that a lot of people are happy to go to Game Pass for, is the smaller games that they normally would never even look at are put up there in their face. Because, obviously there's a section of Game Pass, what's been added, and you click on that, and everything that has just been added is right there for you. And you know what? You'll see an attractive icon. You're like, I've never played it. You click on that game, like, holy shit, this game is awesome.
Yeah. And when I also say, like, again, backwards compatibility sucks. I don't want to outright charge people for backwards compatibility. I would love a reality where my PS1 works on my PS5, but that's just not the reality we live in. Right. I want it so that someone like an EA could put up like Knights of the Old Republic on there,
so good,
and give people the ability to experience. My whole thing is, and it's what I like, though I don't participate that much in backwards compatibility, I do love what Xbox does, where it's just like, yeah, we're gonna up-res everything. We're gonna make it 4K.
That's what I wanted to ask, though. That's what I wanted to ask. One thing we've seen Microsoft do over the past 2 years, since Enhanced for X became a thing and Game Pass really hit its stride, we're seeing anniversary updates to see if the State of Decay got its Juggernaut Edition, which was essentially a remaster. Master Chief Collection got reworked, and we got the Halo Reach makeover. Do you think if PlayStation Now hits its stride, we'll see remasters to those things, and then we'll see another one of those future-proofing methods going forward?
Unfortunately, I don't think Sony would do that. I don't strike them to be that I guess forward thinking that Microsoft is, in terms of, like, again, because I think opening up backwards compatibility the way Microsoft has is, listen, like, half of the people that are buying whatever game is backwards compatible, or trying out games that are backwards compatible, probably just buying it from the storefront because they have fond memories of it, right? So like Battlefront 2, like, I would rather play that than the other Battlefront 2 any day of the week, because it's
me too.
I have so many fond memories, though I do love what they've done to Battlefront 2, but like, most people are purchasing that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, not a lot of people, I would assume, is putting in that old disc. So giving them the option of hey, listen, this works here, but like also having just the selling point of the entire PlayStation 1 catalog is here. That's awesome, because then it's the convenience factor of not having to but like fight someone on eBay to get the original Final Fantasy, all the discs to it. So like, to me, that is a cool incentive. But again, PlayStation and their backwards compatibility, I would love it that I could put in an old, Jack 3 in there and it works, but that's not the case. So I really think, like, the Band-Aid quote unquote fix, the best thing that I could see happen is, unfortunately, sorry, going. But again, unfortunate in the sense of giving a wide audience that have heard so much about these legendary games able to try them. Because remember, gaming was so much smaller in the 5th and 6th generations than it is now. To see people go back to the well, and we're seeing it also with Nintendo right now, right?
Yes.
Going back to the well and trying out and revisiting that nostalgia with your kids or your nephews, or just trying like a game like Mario 64 out for the first time type of deal. Nintendo's typically been okay at doing that. So do a system similar to that. a little better. You know, give me something that's more streamlined. Give me the option of streaming and just straight up downloading it onto the system. But right now, xCloud and Game Pass, as I feel like I've gone a little bit off point here.
No,
It's
absolutely. Every point you're making is completely valid, dude.
Cool. It's just such a superior service, and I think what Microsoft has been able to do, and I give so much props to them, is that they realized that they don't have as big of a culture as a Nintendo or a PlayStation because they haven't been in the game since the early 90s or, you know, for Nintendo, early 80s. And they're like, we know our catalog's smaller, but there are these fans here that embrace, that love this thing. Let's embrace this culture. Let's embrace the history of not just Xbox, but of gaming in general since we've been in here. And seeing those improvements on the back end is really awesome. So again, I think when it comes to the 1-2 punch, it really comes to the culture that Microsoft is trying to cultivate. And I think they are doing a really great job of cultivating, which is play where you want, play the games you want, regardless of ecosystems. It's here. You know, Game Pass is the future and is the brand of Xbox. That's what they want to sell you.
Yeah.
Anything is that recurring wampum, you know, and I think they've made an impressive argument as to go why you should go to them for that.
Yeah, I mean, really great, all great points. Real quick, I have to thank Bigfoot Avenue with the outstanding $2 super chat. First of all, welcome to the show and thank you for the generosity. He says, can XBX do last-minute enabling of variable clocks?
You know what, dude? I don't necessarily. I think that they could. I don't think that they need to be. I think they're already doing that. This is the difference between Microsoft and Sony. They're both doing variable clocks. Sony is just promoting theirs inside of the numbers they're talking about when they say it can get up to that 10 point, whatever the number is. I keep
10.3.
That 10.3 is gonna, scale up and down to what they see what the system needs. Microsoft is basically saying that our system can run stable at 12.
Yeah,
they're
12.1.
saying no matter what, you can get at least 12 out of this system. But that, like, I think Optimus Code says it really, really well. And if you don't, just go check his timelines on Twitter. He talks about this an awful lot on there. Most of the games you play on these systems are not going to take 12 teraflops to run.
No.
They're not even close. Ori and the Will of the Wisp is nowhere near hitting 12 teraflops to run, but the system has the allocation to do it. So you'll be seeing some games probably run at 8 or 4 or 6. And, the games that are super ambitious like Halo Infinite may clock at that 12 or run somewhere in the middle. But
just think of it like a car.
Exactly.
My car could go 100 miles per hour, but I'm not running that car 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
speed
how
limits are for.
CPUs work. Just think of it like an engine in a car, man.
Yep. So they're both.
Being that you're here for today, I want to bring you into the conversation because what I enjoy about your banter is that you look at it from both perspectives, both a game fan, right, and you also look at it from a business perspective. And when I bring in business perspective, the value proposition in this 1-2 knockout punch that I have been referring to as we started this particular topic, why I think Microsoft not only has it, why they should completely flaunt it, why I think it's going to be a huge contributing factor that most of the mainstream gaming media has yet to really do a deep dive in, is what they're going to be offering the consumer when they buy their console. And, we have a good suspicion that the Xbox is probably going to launch at $499.99. That makes sense.
Right.
I do think that it is intriguing with Phil Spencer's comment that they have wiggle room or pivot room, if you will, to make adjustments on pricing, which is it should be concerning for Sony that they're willing to match what Sony does, right? But when you talk about these three additives, these three additional cogs that have been completely left out of the conversation because power apparently is the only thing people give a shit about, Game Pass, Project X Cloud, and backwards compatibility, these offerings are tremendous value. And I'm not saying it takes away from the power factor. It won't. but when you add it, it's a big deal. What are your thoughts?
So when I hear everybody talk about it, and I like how you say I try to combat it from both, the business side and just the gaming side. I just feel like Sony, their messaging on all this stuff has just been incomplete. It's like, it's not bad, but it's not compared to what Microsoft has been doing. When your competitor is doing and saying everything right, it puts a microscope and magnifying glass on what you're saying. So if we just go back and think about all the things that Sony and Microsoft are doing, 2 out of the 3 Sony did first. When it comes to PlayStation Now, when they bought Gaikai, when they purchased Gaikai, they already had a streaming solution in place. They were first to market in the console space with that. The difference is, when you come second, you could take a lot of the things that the first person did wrong. See 2013. You can take all that stuff they did wrong and you can capitalize on it. And that's what Microsoft did with xCloud. And xCloud still isn't available to the wide public yet. But the fact that it's already in a better state than Gaikai has ever been when it comes to the PlayStation Now service is remarkable for the people that are playing it. Then you go back into the whole Game Pass situation. Well, PlayStation Now, once again, they started all of this with the streaming on the system and playing on the system. Xbox made it better by saying, good, we're going to let you download the games. And then PlayStation followed suit. And then that made it a better service overall. The difference is Xbox gives you day one on all their first party titles. And that's why people always say, well, why is PlayStation Now half the price of Xbox of Game Pass? Well, that's because Sony doesn't put their first party in there. That's why it's half the price. But that is a reason why Xbox is actually being, celebrated more, because they're letting you get those games at a reduced price by just being in a service that you already have. And then backwards compatibility. It's kind of funny to me how PlayStation 3 was fully backwards compatible to all systems when it first launched, and then when PlayStation 4 came out, and they took it away for good reason, because it was not viable with the cell processor and the price of the system. Back then, like, as much as we say $500-$600 now could be a good price for a system, back then that was suicide. And PlayStation, and then their messaging back then about 4-second jobs and stuff, that was that compounded the situation a little bit. And then so the fact that they had that back then, it's kind of boggling that they didn't have something in place like that for PlayStation 4. But I guess that comes back to, like they said, the whole cell processor. That was just a bad generation for them when it comes to the archetype that they chose to pick, because they wanted to be a powerhouse when it came to consoles.
It goes to show the approach of the PlayStation 5 when Mark Cerny, and I know most of y'all were paying attention because, like you or like myself, we were asleep. Is that everything runs through the software, so they're not putting a PlayStation 4 chip in there, and making it cost. It wouldn't be a cost-effective move. So, like when we're talking about like machine learned ray tracing, remember that's awesome, and that's again something I'm very excited about. It's also going to be tacked onto the price of that console. Yep. So when we're taking a look at PlayStation 5's approach to backwards compatibility, it is, listen, they're saying at this point in time, 4,000 plus games will be ready to be played backwards compatible on it. And how it's doing that is through the software of running it at a legacy mode. So because of the architecture so similar. But sorry.
No, you're good. And that's exactly it. And that's why I say none of the things they're doing are bad. They're just incomplete. It's like Microsoft's telling you exactly what you're getting. You know what you're getting from Game Pass. You know what you're getting from xCloud. People are even at this point, just automatically assuming, because of how consumer friendly Microsoft is, that xCloud and Game Pass are just going to be merged together, which is more than likely going to be the thing.
You know what? They haven't officially announced it, but they have alluded to it in numerous interviews.
And that's the thing. They have alluded to it, but we don't know. But granted, even separately, there's still great services on their own, which stands up even better than what PS Now has in a combined service. Mm-hmm. But they're not. Their service isn't trash. It's not terrible. It's got better. And then, like I said, backwards compatibility, the only difference there is what you're getting from Microsoft when it comes to backwards compatibility. PlayStation, yes, one moment is this 4,000 games, but then we don't know what games. And then they say the top 100 games on PlayStation. What are the top most requested games on PlayStation? I can go to the Xbox Wire or Xbox's website up until last year and see every game that was requested to be backwards compatible. And if that game hit the top of the list, it made it to backwards compatible. So you literally had an influence over what games became backwards compatible.
The fans did. Yes,
the
great
fans
point.
had literally access to that, and whatever games you voted were the games that they made over there. And just thinking that PlayStation they're doing it, but we don't know what they're doing. Like, we know how they're doing it, but we don't know what games it actually is going to be. I mean, it just sounds nice to say 4,000 games are out there. Yeah, it sounds good, but what 4,000 games? Are they going to be a bunch of PlayStation 2 and 1?
They said, like, they're looking at it through the top 100 most played games on your PlayStation 4 are going to be backwards compatible.
Right.
So they're doing the same thing. You're not getting Hello Kitty Adventure on probably being backwards compatible. You're probably getting Uncharted, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, etc. You're getting Rainbow Six Siege.
And just like you said, and you're not wrong, but it also goes back to the marketing. You just throw a number out there. What do people think when they hear a number? They say 4,000 games. Well, what 4,000 games? Instead of saying, hey, guess what? These are the games that's going to be in there on top of 300 others. When Microsoft talks about Game Pass, they say all our first party plus over 200 other games are going to be in there. They throw the caveat and say, this is what you're getting on top of everything else. The fact that Sony, like once I say it's all incomplete at this point, I know those games are good. Me, Babbitt, all of us know those games are going to be there. But for the outside consumer that doesn't look at Twitter every day or look at feeds or look at news articles or watch these press conferences, they just hear 4,000 games. Well, there's a lot of games on Steam, way more than 4,000. And if I was to tell you, say, oh, all these games are playable on your system, but what games? So that's the problem that I have with it. But overall, both systems are going to be fine when it comes to the features. I love how Xbox Live has jumped in popularity over the last couple of weeks. Anybody that's been on Xbox has definitely noticed it because you've been getting dropped and logged out. And it's mostly because of server issues right now.
So many people playing.
So many people playing, which honestly for Xbox is probably a good thing. I'm not saying that this whole pandemic thing is a good thing, but more people being stuck in their house playing games, it makes the gaming world bigger than it actually was before. And that's a great thing to see. And it's going to help both these systems. So features are going to be king in the next generation because that's going to be the only thing that's going to tell these systems apart. But Sony is doing everything they can right now to stay on task. I just feel like the messaging needs to get better and they need to commit to certain things. They can't just be throwing out numbers and saying, this is what you're getting, and not actually give you the whole story of everything you're getting. And I think outside of backwards compatibility, that's the only one I really have a problem with. But when it comes to PlayStation Now, that stuff's going to get better. It's going to get better over time because Azure is part of that network and they haven't even ramped that whole situation up. But the messaging and the stories that PlayStation been telling for the last 7 years has just kind of dissipated with the changing of the guard. And I think with Jim Ryan being at the helm, they're just trying to find what the new message of PlayStation is going to be. Once they figure that out, I think then they'll be good. But every day that goes by, Microsoft is leading the narrative when it comes to next generation consoles. And that is comforting as an Xbox fan. It's not so damning as a PlayStation fan, but as a PlayStation fan, you just want to know more. And I can speak for everybody on that. It's just incomplete. We don't know what PlayStation's doing until they actually come out and say everything they need to say.
No, I mean, once again, fantastic points. Luke, I want to come to you, but I got to catch up on the super chats. So let me do that real quick. First of all, Slip Vein 4K not only drops an outstanding and extremely generous $10 super chat, it's what he says that just put a smile on my face. Thank you for the awesome information and keeping it real. Cannot wait for the Xbox Series X. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for your generosity. But more importantly, thank you for the really nice compliment. And of course, our very good friend, Philly Eagle, drops a very generous $10 super chat. Hey, Philly, thank you for being here, dude. Super appreciated. He says, I just want to send greetings to Boom and the panel by way of support. Thank you all for doing what you're doing, providing positivity during a difficult time. Hit the like button, hashtag fun, hashtag be safe, hashtag play games. And I want to say and add another one to that, hashtag stay the hell home. Because we don't want to keep spreading this shit until they get a hold of it. We need to just chill and play games. This is right now. Listen, off kilter topic. Folks, we have been training for this shit our entire lives. Staying home and playing games. My God, don't leave the house and just sit home, order pizza, play games, and live life. It is the ultimate gamer's fantasy come to reality thanks to unfortunate situations that are out of our control. Game Goons drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for being here. Of course, thank you for your generosity. He says Xbox Ultimate is gold and Game Pass is combined. Yes, yeah, that the Ultimate does include that. And Elemental PO, who was one of the winners of this month's Patreon for a $10 gift card to his choice of any place, digital gift card. He drops a $4 super chat and says this, Phil Dominus on IGN recently, where's Ryan at? I don't know.
He's tap dancing somewhere, man. He's tap dancing.
He's probably tap dancing. Sir X-Men, good friend of the channel, he drops a $2 super chat. I can watch Sonic the Hedgehog at home now. Yes, I bought it yesterday. I actually bought that and Bad Boys for Life.
Hell yes, you did.
Yeah, I sure you bet your ass I did. So you know what, Luke, I want to bring you in here because, you know, we started this conversation with competitive advantage and three things being benefit, target market, and competition. And these three particular cogs that I keep referring to that people, or at least the gaming media at large, seem to have shied over or not brought it to the forefront of the conversation because power, right? T-flops has just dominated the press. And we know that even though one has more T-flops from the other, it doesn't make the other one a less competent console. It just means it's less powerful. But it's these three things in regards to Xbox Game Pass, backwards compatibility, and of course Project xCloud that are going to pay not only a huge thing for Microsoft in this country. I think it's what they're going to do in countries that they have normally failed in is really the story that no one is talking about. For you, how important are these three cogs?
Hey, they're super important. We have seen Microsoft pivot and work very hard to regain their momentum post 2013, and it started with hardware, and now it's transitioned into services with software on the way. So all three of those play a huge role, and I fully believe that without each of those pillars, you'll see Microsoft stumble from where it is they want to be. They don't want a hardware gate on their products. They don't want a speed gate on their products. They want to have the best services available for each of their customer types to jump in. And so I think it's hugely important. And xCloud is likely their future proof. I mean, that is going to be their future proofing. And it's a matter of whether or not they can keep Azure up to speed and on par with demand, and whether or not ISPs can accommodate them. I mean, there's going to be conversations in some countries about whether or not the internet is a utility post-pandemic, and that will play a role in xCloud. For some countries, it is a utility, and that allows for certain types of regulations to be put into place that are good and bad depending on your leanings, and that's not for us to debate. But what I mean is those will play a role down the line. Each one of those pillars makes a difference. That Series X hardware will make a difference, as will xCloud, as will the software lineup that they roll out. And one of the things I loved about his most recent interview was that he said he does not foresee a future where they are not announcing a new game at each event. It doesn't mean they're all going to be AAA caliber. It doesn't mean they're all going to be small and indie, but there's always something new, and that's the value of Game Pass. There's whether it's a humble bleeding edge, perhaps, or a Halo Infinite caliber game. There's something new for you, and that is a benefit.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think that what they're doing is, again, we as gamers always look for what's in front of us. And unfortunately for Sony at the moment, their marketing and their messaging, which dominated this current generation in a way that I have never seen it. I mean, the aggressive behavior that they showed in pushing the console, making it the most selling console this generation, was, or more importantly, making it the console to own, the cool console, has been nothing short of amazing. And unfortunately, the same ideology and drive that made them the market leader that they currently still are, because we're still in the generation, the current generation, and they are the market leader. That aggressiveness, that clear and concise discussion that we had when we talked about their marketing is just not there anymore. And we talked about this on Breakfast with Boom a couple of weeks ago about how all of the rah-rah guys that made Sony PlayStation 4 the cool system, they have all been taken off of the table. And now it's currently Helmut Hurst, who has taken over for Sony, and the head of Sony is Jim Ryan. Both of these gentlemen are not only ultra smart in their respected positions, but they are not the rah-rah guys that the console needs. And because they are running the show, they are going to do things their way. And based on what we've seen so far, and again, this is post December 12th, 2019 Game Awards, it's been a very different Sony. And it's a Sony that a lot of people want to know, where did the real Sony go to? Well, right now, I think they're in transition. There's been talk, and again, I have no confirmation of this. I see different people talking about it on the forums and on Twitter and other forms of social media, that there's some infighting going on at Sony right now. I can't attest to that, but it would definitely make sense, if you will, as to what is going on at Sony, because they just don't seem to be the same Sony. And you can equate that to any thing that Microsoft has done. They've been very proactive in getting out there and dropping these bomb messages. I'm going to be honest with you. This Monday came and went, and I was pissed we didn't get anything, because I usually have my show notes ready to go, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to write up 2 damn Xbox shows, because Microsoft is going to drop a bomb thing, and the 2 shows that I spent 8 hours writing are going to be for naught. And guess what? I was panicking because I was like, shit, nothing happened. I have to write these shows. So, I mean,
I gotta jump in here for a second.
Sure, come on in.
So again, like when it comes to the messaging of PlayStation, the first bow out of the gate, which was the road to PlayStation 5, was a rough one. And I think that PlayStation has been, over the past year and a half, in this era of transition and change and structure overhaul, where as a person who runs a PlayStation show, who is or tries to get in contact with PlayStation, it sucks, because if there's a company, I can't say the name, but if I was trying to get to a contact with a developer who is working with Sony in Europe, I would have to contact Sony Europe. Or if I'm at, if there's a company that I want to talk to about, and they're based in Europe, but they also do, relations with PlayStation, I got to contact PlayStation North America. It was a huge shit show. And so they've consolidated it into one central hub to do all that, just like Xbox and I think Nintendo do. The one thing that I can't, again, I know I'm saying this, it's unpopular. We haven't seen what PlayStation has said, because they haven't said really much. And
correct. No, that's a great point.
It goes to what Phil Spencer even said in the interview, which is he's like, listen, we're not at the marketing phase yet of this console. And that's what what it is right now, is where the hardcore audience is. Both of us, I want to know more about the PlayStation. Anybody that's a casual or an adept of or adept when it comes to the gaming stuff, they don't necessarily care until they're told. So
yeah, great point.
We're gonna get something. I don't know the reasons as to why. We can say many things as to the reason why they're being quiet at this moment, but it's going to happen. We're going to get that news sometime by June, and then we're going to see this. We're going to see the true tone of what Sony is right now. And I think the road to the PlayStation 5 was, if I'm Sony, I'm taking a step back and I'm reevaluating things.
I agree.
But at the same exact time, from what I've heard about Herman Holst, he is just like the Phil Spencer of sorts, where he's a developer at heart. He's a software engineer at heart. And Jim Ryan is the guy that made the PlayStation 3 profitable in Europe and popular in Europe and dominate Europe. So the leadership's there. We just need to get him to talk.
Yeah, no, get out there in front of this. Real quick, let me just catch up with Super Chat. Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $10 Super Chat and says this: a great show, everyone. This is an awesome panel and topics. I can't wait for the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Thank for the great channel, Boom. Well, thank you, dude. More importantly, for being here. Your absolutely outstanding generosity. And of course, the very, very kind words. And Sir X-Man, a very good friend of mine, drops $2 Super Chat and says this: I wonder if Sony is holding back money like Xbox did. I don't know what they're doing. I wouldn't think that that they don't have the money or they're skimping out. I just think that they, from a perspective of where the dollars were being spent, maybe they felt that because they have the market lead, because their games do sell extremely well, with little to no marketing now anyway, that they don't have to spend that additional extra dollar that they did leading up to them becoming the market leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't need to spend the $18 million it probably cost to put God of War on the basketball court, right? They don't need to do that, even though that was amazing. And I'd love to see more of that. They don't need to spend that because they're the current market leader. And to be honest, they have 3 big games that Xbox doesn't, right? They have Final Fantasy VII coming as an exclusive for a year. I'm buying it. I cannot wait. They have The Last of Us 2, which is going to be probably game of the year. I mean, I don't even think there's could something challenge it? Sure. Halo could melt our eyeballs. Yeah. Cyberpunk 2077 could completely just win everything. We don't know, but it's certainly going to be a contender. And Ghost of Tsushima is the enigma, because even though that has a release date, I mean, again, I have the collector's edition pre-ordered. I cannot wait for it. That game looks dope, and I'm a big, Onimusha fan. I'm a big, Tenchu fan, so I get all those vibes. I can't wait to play it. I'm wondering if that is somehow going to be delayed. I don't know. They haven't talked about a delay. I'm just saying that it would be really upsetting if it was, because I'm looking forward to that game. Real quick, John Mendoza drops an outstanding $10 Super Chat and says this: hey, Boom, can you talk to your audience about Ryan McCaffrey's dev source and what he said about Cerny's misleading statements on the PS5? There seems to be doubt about this in the chat. Look, you know what? First of all, John, thank you so much for the $10 Super Chat. That is very, very kind of you. Thank you for being here. I don't have the information in front of me for what you're saying. Someone actually DM'd me privately and asked about the same thing. I know Digital Foundry just did a deep dive on the PlayStation 5 and what Mark Cerny said, and there's some question as to whether Mark Cerny was completely, I guess, forthcoming with some of the things that he said. I have to watch the video a second time, and I have to read a couple of articles. If there's something there to discuss that's not going to be finger pointy or accusatory, because I kind of don't like to go down that rabbit hole, I will definitely bring it up in this week's upcoming primetime gaming. I just need some time to really look into it because I don't want to. I hate shooting from the hip, especially when there are numbers and facts involved. Because then if I get it wrong, even though I don't mind getting out there and saying, "Hey, listen, folks, I was wrong," I don't want to sound like a boob unnecessarily. Now, if I sound like a boob because I'm a boob, that's fine. I just want to get the information, so I will be addressing that. And real quick, we are closing in on the 2-hour mark, and this has been a great show. Two things I kind of just want to bring up. First of all, I had tweeted earlier this week that my Xbox was nearly dead, and it was. And any game that loaded, the console would just shut off. The fan would rev so high. I have no idea why it even did that. I've never had a problem with this console. It started with Doom. I got an update for Doom, and ever since that update, man, my console was running like a lunatic, like it was on cocaine or something. And being that this isn't a law enforcement household, we don't stand that kind of shenanigans. So if he's on drugs, he's out. But I cleared my cache on both the saved games and, of course, where the IP addresses are stored. And to be honest with you, knock on wood, it hasn't gone off yet. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I did order a stupid fan to put on the back of my console so it doesn't overheat. And so far it's working fine. But when it played Doom, oh my God, it was so loud. It was you could hear it in the other room. Like it was ridiculously loud. So that's on that front. Real quick, I want to throw this out there. We had almost 350 people watching, and there's still 321 people here. I still have currently about, I think 10 or 11 copies of The Division. I have mostly left for the PlayStation 4, and I think I have 3 or 4 for the Xbox One. They are physical copies. I bought a bunch of them as giveaways. And I've offered them to my Patreon supporters. I've offered them to my channel members. I've offered them into the community. If you're here and you're listening, if you want the game, all I need is your shipping address. I'll ship it to you free of charge. No contest, no shenanigans. If you tell me, boom, I want that game because I don't have it, DM me and I'll send it out as soon as over the weekend, and you'll get it for free. No strings attached whatsoever. Free copy of The Division 2. If you don't have it and you want it, let me know what platform you want it. If it's first come, first serve, if I have it for the platform you want, it's yours free of charge. But let's get into, of course, the outstanding panel and the outros. And of course, I'm going to start with Zemi Games. Zemi, obviously you are the co-host with the co-most, and you're here each and every week, and I certainly appreciate you being here. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they could get your newest recipe for sausage and peppers or follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Boom. And this was a fantastic show, as always, man. If you guys want to check out my YouTube, it's called Zemi Games. I do a bunch of gaming content there, Let's Plays, gaming news, reviews, all sorts of stuff. So definitely check that out if that's your thing. And if you like what you see, make sure to hit the subscribe button. You guys can also check me out on Twitter at Zemi Games. My DMs are always open. I love interacting with community members, so feel free to drop me a message anytime. And then also, I've recently been posting delicious looking pictures of sausage and peppers, and actually donuts too. I made homemade donuts.
Yeah, I saw that. That looked delicious.
And I've been posting pictures on there. So if you guys want to check out my cooking or just have an update of whenever I post a video, or just talk to me through my DMs, make sure to follow me on Twitter. And thank you so much, Boom.
Yeah, it's great, man. First of all, those donuts, the homemade donuts with the powdered sugar looked fantastic. Yeah. I think tonight I am going to be making from scratch buffalo chicken pizza. One of me and Mrs. Boomstick's favorites. I will post pictures if we decide to do it. I mean, she's the real cook. Let's call a spade a spade. Mrs. Boomstick puts her foot in it, so to speak. If you are a chef, you understand what I'm talking about when I say that. It's an old Southern term about putting your foot into the meal. They don't actually do that, but it's a kind of like leaving it out all on the table. She's the real cook. Sure. I am learning, but I definitely, as a hobby, really and truly enjoy making pizza. I even make stuffed pizza, if you could believe it. Yes, that's right. The one from Pizza Hut. I took their idea and I used it home, and it's delicious.
I want that.
So let's get into the rest of the outros. Gaming Forte, first of all, dude, thanks so much for hitting me up and actually letting me know you could be on the show, because having you on the show is also, for me personally, very enjoyable, because I like your perspective from a community aspect, but I also like it from a business point of view. And of course, as always, you knocked it out of the park. Tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check you out on the 17 shows you happen to be a part of.
Yeah, definitely. Always enjoy being on the show with you guys. It's always a pleasure. The funny thing is, when I saw those pictures of food on Zimmy's thing, I was like, man, that's probably the one thing outside of everything that I enjoy the most, just how everybody's being like forthcoming with just the things they're doing during this whole quarantine situation. It's really cool getting a good inside look at most of these people's lives, because right now all you can do is just share what's going on in your day-to-day, which is sitting in your four walls. And I really enjoy that. Yeah, it's real fun. It's refreshing too. So everybody keep doing that. But with that being said, it's Gaming Forte, YouTube, and Twitter. Check me out on all those things. Wednesday nights with the Brat Podcast with B Money, Enrique, Slow-Mo Backslap, Eric Jackson. Man, we do that every Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Crossfire is going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m. EST. And Scumcast on Saturday. You already know about Mondays with Breakfast with Primetime Gaming. So, boom, he promotes that every day.
Yes.
So, I really, really appreciate this, guys. It was a very good distraction from everything else going on in life. So, you guys just keep it gaming and have a good week.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, dude. Super appreciate that. Of course, Luke, I want to get you on in here. Obviously, it was great to have you on, because you were supposed to be on Tuesday, but you were doing some real world importance out there, which I think you should be applauded for, because obviously you are a teacher by day, podcaster, and gamer by night, and you were doing something for the kids, which was, of course, certainly a heck of a lot more important than a silly podcast. So I'm glad you were able to do that. But more importantly, love having you on this show, because your point of view is clear and concise, and you have a lot to say regarding Xbox, and you do it in a way that's not again, finger pointy or accusatory. Do me a favor, tell everyone where they can follow you, but more importantly, check out your outstanding podcast.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I host the Xbox Expansion Pass on all podcast services. Most recently, I just interviewed the developers behind Dead Cells about their most recent DLC. Yeah, they dropped some knowledge bombs too about Game Pass and how companies make money from Game Pass, the size of the devs, and like just nuggets of information for like how much money you would get for being involved in Game Pass and otherwise. So that was really insightful. The week prior, I had Rebecca Valentine from GamesIndustry.biz on the show to discuss the more business side of being a games journalist specifically. That's the Xbox Expansion Pass on all your podcast services. And you can find me on Twitter at Insipid Ghost. And I would love to see some of these amazing people in chat. Check me out there and let me know what you think.
Well, yeah, it's great. You run a great show, very professional, very hard to do when it's a one-man show, and you do it well. But your interviews have been fantastic. When you were able to get some of these devs on and you get behind-the-scenes information, there's only one place you can find it, and that is on Luke's show. So get out there and listen to his podcast. I highly recommend it. It is definitely some good listening. And speaking of good listening, and I didn't even know this, that both Luke and Mr. Badbit are actually friends in real life, which is pretty cool.
I'll fight Luke in the streets, man.
I will throw those hands. I'll throw them right now.
I love it. Mr. Badbit, first of all, dude, thanks again for coming on. This was a last minute get because he's in a DM that we all talk in, and it was great to have you on. Obviously, you're going to be on Breakfast with Boom. I have to finish the show notes. They're literally almost done, and I'll send that out to everyone. The panel for tomorrow morning is unbelievably stacked, and I'm really excited. But Badbit, adding you to the mix as a permanent panel member is not only a treat for me personally, it's going to be a good thing for the community because you are not only a PlayStation first player, which a lot of people have been asking me to bring more PlayStation focused gamers onto my shows, which I want to respond on that. But you also are level-headed. You also will give the business to PlayStation when necessary, and vice versa for Xbox when they mess up. I love that your opinions are not one-sided, but they seem to be factual and from a gamer's point of view. And you bring a lot to the table. Tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
So yeah, first off, thank you for having me on. And I can't wait for tomorrow. It's gonna be good. I'm excited for it. You can find me over at Bad Bit Games, where we talk about all things game news, reviews, unboxings, and also the latest video is the video version of my podcast, The Trophy Room, a podcast made by the players for the players, where each and every Thursday, me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest in all things PlayStation. This week, we talked about Bethesda pulling out that digital E3 event. We talked about that Modern Warfare 2 remaster. It's a fun conversation. And of course, Randy Pitchford being shady as shit as per usual.
He's known for that.
Yep. And again, you can find the Trophy Room on YouTube at Bad Big Games, or you can find the Trophy Room on iTunes, on Google Play, on Spotify, wherever you get your RSS feed. We are 5 reviews away, five-star reviews away from 69 reviews on iTunes, which means
nice, dude. Excellent.
Pretty cool.
Yes, excellent. Well, listen, dude, obviously everyone here is a content creator. They care about their craft, and they would not be on here if I didn't care about their craft. And I think that if you trust me and you enjoy listening to me, you will probably enjoy listening to them. And I highly suggest getting over to the show notes once this posts, clicking on that, subscribing, and getting some really good podcasts to listen to in a time where we are stuck at home. And there's nothing better than playing, Resident Evil 3 or whatever your flavor is of the day, which my flavor will be at midnight. I'm hoping that it's 9. I hope that it's 9, but it's going to be midnight. I know it. I will be staying up at least till 2 because I have to get my Resident Evil 3, fix in before I collapse. But I want to thank everybody for being here. First of all, I want to thank the outstanding generosity of this community that continues to be so generous for Double Barrel Gaming. Literally, it's as humbling as you could possibly imagine. And of course, we had almost 350 people live in the chat today. That's a big deal. That tells me that maybe the notifications are going out, and that YouTube did in fact fix their horrendous issue that they had where small content creators are suffering. And even though I don't bring in 1 million views, I still count, along with, of course, the Basement Radio Arcade podcast and the Saltiest Gaming, which, of course, I'm going to be on tonight as a guest with Mooch from the both Mooch and I are going to be guest appearing on Salty's podcast that goes live tonight at 7 p.m.
You see that thing?
Check that chat that I just put in there. Check that.
I literally got like 3 texts.
Last of Us just got delayed
and Iron Man until further notice. Jason Schreier adds the game's basically done, but the decision was made purely economic and logistical reasons, probably because of what we're seeing.
Discs. They can't print the discs.
Exactly, and
they're having a problem with printing the Final Fantasy disc that comes out that some people actually are playing.
Yep.
And if they can't print the discs, I'm buying it digitally, so I don't care. But if they can't print it, that sucks.
Well, you know what? That right there speaks to why I always tell people people say retail's dying, but the fact that they can't print disc and they're delaying a game that they can push out, that lets you know right there how big physical media still is in this media. Just because if they could get away with just releasing that digitally, they would.
They would. Of course they would. They absolutely would. Discs still sell, and people still like going to the store and buying them. Some people only buy physical media exclusively. But you know what? I'm gonna add this to tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom. It's gonna be the lead topic, FYI, and I'm sure it's gonna be a topic on tonight's Saltiest podcast. So tune in at 7 for that. But again, I want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to close out with a couple of things. First of all, I want to wish everyone's family love, safety, understanding, patience, and prayers, right? I mean, right now, the world is really in flux. We're all scared. help people, be a good neighbor, be a good human. Don't take advantage of a bad situation and make it worse. And two things that I think that my father taught me way back in the days when I was a little kid that sat on his knee, I think are worth more now than ever, is two things. One, treat others how you yourself want to be treated. And the other thing is, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by these rules, and I can guarantee you are going to have an awesome day. So I want to wish everyone a great day. Again, be safe. Love and prayers from me and Josette, and have a great night. Play games, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.